Hello everyone, it's Mr. C here. I hope everyone is doing well, preparing for their exams and revising well. I thought I'd just provide you with a bit of a guide on how to do the history exams, some of the top tips, and so how to structure exam skills, etc. Nothing too specific on the topics, more the skills. So let's get going. First things first, let's have a little quick look at what you're being assessed on. There are 4 assessment objectives for you to be looking at. One is AO1 is your ability to demonstrate good knowledge. There's precise, detailed stuff, knowing all of that. That needs to be in there. The second skill that you're being assessed on is your ability to explain and analyze. Rather than to describe all your knowledge, you also have to link it to the question, actually answer the question. That's a very important skill. The third one is any use of source material. Some of these questions involve sources, how well you use those and interpret them and analyze them and infer from it. That's a key part of the component, so make sure we do well on that. And the fourth thing you're being analysed on, assessed on even, is your evaluation skills, evaluation of interpretations, historical events in context, making a conclusion, judging from it, etc., etc. Then let's another little thing to look at is what the exam will look like. So paper 1 is of course for us, which is Stalin and the Cold War. That is the depth studies, the kind of knowledge side of things, and that's 50% of your exam, final exam, and that is an hour and a half to do those 2 things. Paper 2 is slightly different. Section A, the historical investigation, is the Tsar and the Russian Revolution aspect, and Section B, of course, breadth study over time, is China. Section A, slightly more source-based. Section B, that change over time. And indeed, I put here the various different parts of these AOs that are being assessed there. Before we delve into the different papers, let's first talk about timings. This is, for some people, it's their biggest demon, trying to make sure we get everything written down in the time allotted. Now, we have 4 topics to discuss over all of this, of course, and each topic has 45 minutes to do 3 questions. And in total, they total up to 30 marks. Therefore, you've got a minute and a half per mark. How does that break down? Well, for a 6-mark question, 9 minutes, an 8-mark question, 12 minutes, a 16-mark question, 24 minutes. That sounds manageable. But you might think, I need more time for the essay. That's absolutely fine. Perhaps you could take a minute or so off the 8-marker. Do you really need 9 minutes to do the 6-mark question? You decide. But that is the how we divvy it up. My other piece of advice is, why not do the essay first? If you're going to run out of time on something, make sure it's the shorter question, the 6-marker, because you'll lose fewer marks. It's basic stuff. Try and do that. Let's delve into paper 1, which for us, of course, is Stalin and the Cold War. And you, as I said, have got to answer 3 questions each topic. 3 questions for Stalin, 3 questions for Cold War. 6 in total for the whole of paper 1, but 3 per topic. And the format that these questions take is you'll have a 6-mark, what is known as the impression question, what impression you get from something. 8-mark, what we call the effects question, what was the effect of a particular event. And then the final essay is a knowledge-based essay based on a statement which you'll get given stimulus. Let's have a look at those specific questions and give us a help and a guide on how we answer them. Starting with the 6-mark impression question, let's first of all look at structure. As I say, it's a short question, just get going. All you need to do is make 1 point and provide 3 bits of evidence from it. So make your point. The author creates the impression that, and use terms like positive or negative, ineffective, successful, significant, or whatever. You should be able to tell from reading it what the impression is. So just say, the impression of this source is a negative one about this topic. Why? And this is where you provide your evidence. Give us some direct quotes. Don't forget language and tone. Even if you can't find a quote, you can get tone. You can get language from this. What does positive or negative language look like? Take a look at that. Some further top tips for you. Well, as I said, 1 impression, 3 justifications. That's what you need. Don't give 3 different impressions. Give us 1 impression with 3 justifications. Also, read between the lines. Think about the meaning of things. Not everything's going to be written down in black and white. Take that going on. It could be a general picture of it all as well. You have to explain how the author provides this impression. So you do need killer quotes and key ideas from it all. Use some particular word phrases And then the other thing, you're struggling to think, is there anything missing from this? Is the author being misleading? Are they not mentioning something which could impact the impression of it? It's good, bread and butter, straightforward question, guaranteed 6 marks in the bag if you follow these guidelines and do it effectively. Now the 8-mark effects questions. Quite a hard one because there's nowhere to hide. It's all about raw, detailed knowledge. If you don't know about the topic, you might struggle and you might not do so well. So what have we got then? How to structure it? Well, essentially you make 2 points. Point 1, evidence explain. Normal P, make a point, provide your evidence, explanation. One effect of was this, for example, this had effect on. Do that twice, straightforward. Nice, easy structure. But what's the difficulty? Well, the difficulty is the precise evidence. If it's not precise, you're not going to get the higher mark. So keep it detailed, keep it precise. Use the words of the question to signpost it. The question will use the word effect, so keep using the word effect throughout. Signpost, this is an effect because. Don't waffle on for too much longer on that. Use the word because. This happened because of that. We must use the word because. Make sure it's 2 paragraphs. You do not need a conclusion. There is nothing to conclude. It's not asking you what's the most effective effect, but just stick to those 2 paragraphs. No need for a conclusion. Use phrases such as a result, consequently, this led to, if you're sick of using the word effect too much, where you can sort of get some synonyms of that. And a really amazing thing, if you can do it, is there are different types of effect. Long-term, short-term, economic, political, positive, negative, all that sort of stuff. Why not also categorize the effects to really hammer it home? And finally, the knowledge-based essay. For this, you'll get given a statement, and then you'll be provided with what are known as stimulus, other key factors that you need to include. And invariably, this question will be something like the most significant reason why collectivization worked was because of Stalin's personality. There's one factor. And then underneath it, it might say, could also be the organization, or it could be the failures or something, or whatever the case might be. So you'll get given a statement and then 2 factors within it. And you have to explain, do you agree with this statement or not? How do we structure this essay? All important. Essentially, it is 5 paragraphs. You'll start with an introduction. What do you do in an introduction? Well, you state what the question is asking you, and then you mention the 3 factors you're going to discuss. If you want to, you can put your overall justification and conclusion. If you know it at the beginning, why not? Some people don't always know. Then you make your 3 clear subject factor paragraphs, which I'll talk about in a minute. Start with the factor that's mentioned in the question, first of all, mentioned in the statement, and explain that. Then use one of your either own or a stimulus one, and that's absolutely fine, one of the bullet points that they have provided for you, and then you must use your own knowledge. The question will say you may use one of these, but you must use one from your own knowledge. So there has to be a separate point that they haven't mentioned that you put in there, explaining it, comparing it, etc., etc. And very important is the conclusion. What do you do in the conclusion? Will you answer the question? Yes, I do agree with the statement. No, I don't. Whatever the case, and explain which factor you think is the most important and why. Again, very straightforward as long as you've done the revision and you know the subject and you know the topic. Introduction, factor 1, factor 2, factor 3, conclusion. Fine. All very well saying 3 paragraphs. What do you put in those 3 paragraphs? Well, it's very similar to the effects one, essentially, just point, evidence, explain. But it's an extra one. It's sort of a P. Point, evidence, explanation, and evaluation. The factor has a significant impact because, for example, detailed knowledge. This means that, explaining it, this impact of the impact of this factor was, or this factor is more important than another one, however you evaluate it within that. So each one of these 3 paragraphs will take the structure of this. And as I said from the beginning, 25 minutes, maybe half an hour to write this, whatever the case may be. And some final top tips for the 16 mark. Make sure your points are clear. There are 3 clear ones. Maybe signpost it. Make sure that structure is nice and clear. Paragraphs, gaps, etc. Signpost it. Don't make it a big wall of writing. Precise, detailed knowledge. I've been saying this all throughout. The more precise, the better answered it is. Answer the question throughout. Don't just leave it for the conclusion. Mini conclusions running through. Link it back. Keep it focused. Keep it tight. Keep it linked to the question. Give yourself enough time. Why not do the essay first? Make sure it's all okay. Make sure you've done the research for it. make sure it's planned effectively, use your time properly. If you are running out of time, drop everything and write a conclusion. It could theoretically mean that if you don't have a conclusion, you could only get 10 out of 16. So even if you haven't finished your third paragraph, you're going to drop marks, but you might as well stop and start to write your conclusion. It's more valuable at that point.